I am 87 years old. I live alone in a small house that has become quieter with every passing year. The sounds that once filled these rooms, the laughter of children, the footsteps of my wife moving through the kitchen, the excitement of family gatherings, have slowly faded into memories. Some mornings, when the sunlight slips through the curtains, I sit quietly and remember those days. People often look at me and ask the same question: how do you stay so healthy at your age? Some ask because they are curious. Others ask because they are surprised. They see me walking without much difficulty. They see me carrying my own groceries. They see me tending my small garden. They see me smiling more often than complaining. And they wonder how an 87-year-old man who lives alone can seem healthier than people half his age. The truth is simple. It is not luck. It is not expensive medicine. It is not some secret discovered by scientists. It is a collection of small habits, tiny choices made every morning. Choices that seem insignificant in the moment but become powerful when repeated day after day, year after year. The first habit changed my life more than any doctor ever could. I call it waking up with purpose. Many people wake up and immediately reach for their phones. Before their feet even touch the floor, they are scrolling through bad news, social media posts, arguments, and endless distractions. By the time they get out of bed, their minds are already tired. I learned many years ago that the first moments of the day are precious. When I open my eyes each morning, I do not rush. I stay still for a moment. I listen. Sometimes I hear birds singing outside my window. Sometimes I hear the wind moving through the trees. Sometimes there is only silence, but that silence has become my friend. I place my hand on my chest and simply remind myself that I am alive. At my age, that is not something I take for granted. Every new day is a gift. Every breath is a gift. Every sunrise is a gift. When you are young, tomorrow feels guaranteed. When you are old, you understand that tomorrow is a blessing. That understanding changes everything. Before I stand up, I ask myself one simple question. What is one good thing I can do today? Not 10 things, not 20 things, just one. Maybe I will call an old friend. Maybe I will water my flowers. Maybe I will take a longer walk. Maybe I will help a neighbor. Having one purpose gives my day direction. Without purpose, people slowly begin to drift. I have seen it happen many times. After retirement, some people stop having goals. They stop looking forward to things. They stop making plans. Little by little, their minds become weaker, their bodies become slower, and their spirits become heavier. The body follows where the mind leads. A person with purpose often finds strength they did not know they had. A person without purpose often feels tired even after sleeping. I learned this lesson after my wife passed away. For a long time, I struggled. The house felt empty. Meals felt lonely. The evenings seemed endless. There were mornings when I wondered why I should even get out of bed. Perhaps some of you watching this know exactly what I mean. Maybe you have lost someone you loved. Maybe you have experienced loneliness. Maybe your children live far away. Maybe your phone rarely rings. Loneliness is a heavy burden. But one morning, I realized something important. My wife would not want me to stop living simply because she was gone. She would want me to keep moving forward. She would want me to keep finding reasons to smile. That day, I made a decision. Every morning, I would find one reason to get out of bed, one purpose, one mission, no matter how small. And that simple habit changed everything. Science often talks about the connection between mental health and physical health. But you do not need a scientific study to understand this truth. Look around. The people who stay active mentally often stay active physically. The people who remain curious often remain energetic. The people who continue to find meaning often continue to thrive. Purpose is fuel. Without it, life becomes heavy. With it, even difficult days become manageable. After finding my purpose for the day, I sit on the edge of my bed and express gratitude. Not complicated gratitude. Simple gratitude. I thank God for another day. I thank Him for my health. I thank Him for the people I love. I thank Him for the opportunities that still remain. Some mornings are harder than others. There are days when my joints ache. There are days when memories bring tears. There are days when loneliness knocks on my door. But gratitude helps me remember what I still have instead of focusing on what I have lost. That shift in perspective is powerful. Many people spend their lives counting their problems. Very few spend their lives counting their blessings. The difference between those two approaches can completely change a person's happiness. As I sit there each morning, sunlight gradually fills the room. The world slowly wakes up, and I begin my day feeling grounded, feeling thankful, feeling purposeful. At 87 years old, I have learned that health is not only about muscles and bones. Health begins in the mind. Health begins in the heart. Health begins in the stories we tell ourselves when we wake up. If the first story of your morning is fear, stress, anger, or regret, your day starts with a burden. If the first story of your morning is gratitude, purpose, and hope, your day starts with strength. That is why this first habit remains the foundation of everything else. Before exercise, before breakfast, before anything, I wake up with purpose. And that simple habit has kept me healthier than many people decades younger than me. Because every healthy day begins long before the body starts moving. It begins with the mind deciding that life is still worth living. There is a moment every morning, just after I finish my quiet time of gratitude and purpose, when I do something that most people overlook. It takes less than 5 minutes. It costs nothing. No special equipment. No expensive membership. No miracle supplement. Yet I truly believe this habit has helped keep my body stronger, my mind sharper, and my spirit younger than many people half my age. The second morning habit that changed my life is simple. I gently wake up my body before I ask it to work. That may sound obvious, but most people do the exact opposite. They jump out of bed. They rush to the kitchen. They hurry through their morning. They demand immediate performance from muscles and joints that have been still for hours. Then they wonder why their backs hurt, why their knees ache, why they feel stiff all day. At 87 years old, I have learned a truth that only time can teach. Your body deserves kindness, especially in the morning. When I was younger, I could leap out of bed and start my day without thinking twice. My body recovered quickly. My muscles were forgiving. My joints were strong. Age changes that. As the years pass, the body becomes less flexible. Muscles tighten more easily. Joints become less forgiving. But growing older does not mean becoming helpless. It means learning how to work with your body instead of against it. Every morning, before I fully stand up, I begin a simple routine. I move my feet. I rotate my ankles. I stretch my calves. I gently bend my knees. I roll my shoulders. I move my neck carefully from side to side. Nothing dramatic, nothing painful. Just slow, gentle movement. These small motions tell my body something important. It's time to wake up. Think of your body like an old car on a cold morning. You would not start the engine and immediately race down the highway at full speed. You allow the engine to warm up. You give it time. The human body deserves the same respect. Many years ago, I ignored this principle. I would jump out of bed quickly. One morning, I stood up too fast and felt a sharp pain shoot through my lower back. That pain stayed with me for weeks. One careless movement created days of discomfort. That experience taught me an important lesson. At any age, but especially in old age, prevention is easier than recovery. Since then, I have treated my morning movements like an investment. 5 minutes of care can save days of pain. 5 minutes of preparation can improve the entire day. And over the years, those 5 minutes add up to something remarkable. Strength, mobility, independence. These are treasures when you live alone. Many younger people do not think about independence. They assume it will always be there. I used to think that way too. But when you reach your 80s, you understand that being able to dress yourself, cook your own meals, clean your own home, and walk without assistance are gifts beyond measure. Every small movement matters. Every stretch matters. Every step matters. The body responds to how we treat it. If we ignore it, it begins to weaken. If we care for it consistently, it often rewards us far beyond our expectations. After my gentle stretching routine, I stand near the window. I place both hands on the windowsill and stretch upward. The morning sunlight usually fills the room by then. I cannot explain exactly why, but sunlight feels different when you are older. Maybe it is because you understand that every sunrise is precious. Maybe it is because you know there have been many people you loved who no longer get to see it. Whatever the reason, I cherish those moments. The warmth on my face reminds me that I am still here, still breathing, still blessed. As I stretch, I often think about my father. He lived through difficult times, hard times, times when people worked long hours and complained very little. One thing he used to tell me has stayed with me all my life. He would say, "Keep moving, son. Rust never sleeps." At the time, I laughed. Now I understand exactly what he meant. The human body is meant to move. When we stop moving, problems begin. Muscles weaken. Balance declines. Energy disappears. Confidence fades. Movement is life. And movement does not have to mean running marathons. It does not require lifting heavy weights. It simply means refusing to become completely still. One of my neighbors was a wonderful man, kind, generous, funny. After retirement, he gradually became less active. He spent more time sitting, more time watching television, more time indoors. At first, nothing seemed wrong. Then his legs became weaker. Walking became harder. Eventually, even simple tasks felt exhausting. I remember visiting him one afternoon. He looked at me and said something that broke my heart. He said, "I think I stopped using my body before my body stopped working." I have never forgotten those words. They taught me something powerful. Sometimes aging itself is not the greatest enemy. Inactivity is. That is why every morning I make movement a priority, even when I do not feel like it, especially when I do not feel like it, because motivation comes and goes. Habits remain. There are mornings when my knees ache. There are mornings when my shoulders feel stiff. There are mornings when the weather seems to settle deep into my bones. But I move anyway. Gently, patiently, consistently, and almost every time I feel better afterward. Not perfect, but better. The body often rewards movement with more movement. The mind often rewards effort with more energy. That is one of life's beautiful mysteries. The very thing you think will make you tired often gives you strength. As the years have passed, I have also noticed something else. These morning stretches do more than help my body. They help my mind. They create momentum. Once I have stretched, I feel accomplished. I have already done something positive. The day has started with success instead of delay. That small victory matters. Many people underestimate the power of small victories. They wait for major achievements, major breakthroughs, major transformations. But life is built on small wins. One healthy choice leads to another. One positive habit encourages the next. One good morning often creates a better afternoon. And a better afternoon often creates a better evening. Everything is connected. As I finish my stretching routine each morning, I feel gratitude once again. Not because I am stronger than everyone else, not because I have discovered some secret formula, but because I can still move, I can still stand, I can still walk, I can still care for myself. At 87 years old, those abilities are priceless. Perhaps some of you watching today are younger than me, maybe much younger. If so, do not wait until your body forces you to pay attention. Take care of it now. Treat it with kindness now. Move it now. Protect it now. Because the habits you build today become the health you enjoy tomorrow. And that brings me to the third morning habit. A habit that many doctors recommend. Many older people ignore. And that has become one of the biggest reasons I still have energy throughout the day. If you visited my home tomorrow morning, you might be surprised by what you see. There are no expensive supplements lined up on my kitchen counter. No miracle powders. No trendy health drinks advertised by celebrities. No secret formula promising to turn back time. Instead, you would see something incredibly simple. A glass of water. That is all. It sounds almost too simple to matter, but after living for 87 years, I have learned that many of life's greatest blessings are simple. The third morning habit that keeps me healthier than many people half my age is drinking water immediately after waking up. Before breakfast. Before coffee. Before turning on the television. Before checking anything else. I drink water. Every single morning. And I believe this small habit has made a tremendous difference in how I feel. When I was younger, I never thought much about hydration. Like many people, I drank water only when I felt thirsty. If I was busy, I forgot. If I was working, I ignored it. If I was traveling, I delayed it. I assumed my body would simply take care of itself. Years later, I realized how wrong I had been. One afternoon, many years ago, I felt unusually tired. My head hurt. My energy disappeared. I felt weak and dizzy. Naturally, I assumed something serious was wrong. At my age, every unusual symptom gets your attention. So I visited my doctor. After a short examination, he smiled gently and said something I did not expect. "You are dehydrated." Dehydrated. That was it. Not a dangerous disease, not a frightening diagnosis. My body simply needed water. That experience opened my eyes. I began paying more attention to hydration, especially in the morning. And what happened surprised me. My energy improved. My headaches became less frequent. My concentration improved. Even my mood seemed better. The human body is remarkable, but it needs the basics. And water is one of those basics. Think about it. For hours while we sleep, we go without drinking anything. Our bodies continue working. Our hearts continue beating. Our lungs continue breathing. Our cells continue repairing themselves. All night long, important work is happening inside us. When morning arrives, our bodies need replenishment. They need support. They need hydration. That first glass of water is like a welcome gift to every system in the body. I often stand at my kitchen sink as sunlight pours through the window. The house is quiet. The neighborhood is still waking up. I slowly drink my glass of water. Not rushed, not distracted, just present. And during those few moments, I reflect on something important. Health is rarely built through dramatic actions. It is usually built through ordinary actions repeated consistently. That lesson took me decades to learn. Many people search endlessly for shortcuts. The newest supplement, the newest trend. Yet they ignore the simple habits that have worked for generations. Sleep, movement, hydration, connection, purpose. These things may not be exciting, but they are powerful. One morning several years ago, I was sitting on my front porch after drinking my water. A younger neighbor walked by. He was probably in his 40s, healthy looking, strong, busy, always rushing somewhere. He stopped and asked how I managed to stay so active. I told him about my morning habits. He laughed when I mentioned water. "That's it?" he asked. "Just water," I smiled, because I understood his reaction. When we are young, we often underestimate simple things. We assume the answer must be complicated. But life has taught me that simple does not mean weak. Simple often means effective. A few months later, that same neighbor came back to visit. He told me he had started drinking water first thing every morning. His energy levels improved. His afternoon fatigue decreased. He felt more alert. The habit that seemed too simple to matter had begun making a difference. That conversation reminded me of another truth. Many people know what is healthy. Far fewer actually do it consistently. Knowledge is helpful. Consistency is transformational. There are countless books about health, thousands of experts, millions of articles. Yet the people who benefit most are not always the ones who know the most. They are often the ones who consistently practice the basics. That principle applies to almost everything in life: relationships, finances, fitness, faith, happiness. Small actions repeated consistently create extraordinary results over time. As I drink my water each morning, I often think about how precious the body truly is. At 87, I am very aware that my body has carried me through a long journey. It has survived illness, stress, heartbreak, loss, hard work, long nights, unexpected challenges, and despite all of that, it continues serving me faithfully. The least I can do is care for it properly. That care begins with the simplest act imaginable, providing it with water. I also noticed something interesting over the years. This habit created a chain reaction. Once I drank my water, I became more mindful of other healthy choices. I became more aware of what I ate, more aware of how much I moved, more aware of how I treated myself. One good choice encouraged another. That is how healthy habits often work. They rarely travel alone. They bring friends. One positive decision makes the next positive decision easier. One healthy morning often leads to a healthier day, and healthier days eventually become a healthier life. Living alone has taught me another important lesson. No one is coming to manage my health for me. No one is standing in my kitchen reminding me to drink water. No one is creating my habits. No one is making my choices. That responsibility belongs to me. At first, that realization felt lonely. Now it feels empowering, because it reminds me that I still have control over many aspects of my life. I cannot control my age. I cannot control the passing of time. I cannot control every health challenge that may come. But I can control how I start my morning. I can control whether I nourish my body or neglect it. I can control whether I build healthy habits or unhealthy ones. And those choices matter more than many people realize. As I sit quietly after finishing my glass of water, I often look out the window at my small garden. The flowers remind me of something beautiful. Plants need water to thrive. Without it, they weaken. Without it, they struggle. Without it, they eventually fade. Human beings are not so different. We often expect ourselves to flourish while ignoring our most basic needs. We work hard. We stay busy. We carry responsibilities. Yet sometimes we forget to care for ourselves. My morning glass of water has become more than hydration. It has become a reminder to slow down, a reminder to be intentional, a reminder that health is built one choice at a time. At 87 years old, I do not have the strength I had at 27. I do not move as quickly. I do not recover as fast. But I have something that younger people often lack: perspective. And perspective has taught me that the simplest habits are often the most powerful. That glass of water each morning may seem ordinary, but over thousands of mornings, ordinary becomes extraordinary. One day becomes 1 year. 1 year becomes 10. And eventually, those tiny actions become part of the reason you are still standing strong when others are struggling. But there is another habit that may be even more important. A habit that protects not only my body but also my heart. A habit that fills the silence of living alone with something beautiful instead of something painful. If you had told me when I was young that one of the most important health habits in my life would have nothing to do with food, exercise, or medicine, I probably would not have believed you. Back then, I thought health was mostly physical. Eat reasonably well, stay active, get enough sleep, visit the doctor when needed. Those things are certainly important, but after 87 years of living, loving, losing, and learning, I have discovered something deeper. A lonely heart can become just as unhealthy as a neglected body. And that is why the fourth morning habit that keeps me healthier than many people half my age is something incredibly simple every morning. I connect with someone or something beyond myself. It sounds simple, but it has changed my life. You see, living alone can be dangerous in ways people do not always understand. Most people think the biggest challenge is cooking your own meals or carrying groceries. Those things can be difficult, yes, but the real challenge is often emotional. The silence, the empty rooms, the missing conversations. The moments when you reach for the phone and realize there is no one calling. The moments when you hear good news and have nobody nearby to share it with. The moments when memories suddenly appear and remind you of people who are no longer here. Those moments can slowly wear down the human spirit. I know because I have lived them. After my wife passed away, the mornings became especially difficult. For decades, she had been part of my routine. We shared breakfast. We shared stories. We shared plans. Even simple moments felt meaningful because they were shared. Then one day she was gone, and suddenly the mornings felt empty. I remember sitting alone at the kitchen table. 2 chairs, one occupied, one empty. That empty chair seemed to speak louder than any words. Perhaps some of you understand that feeling. Perhaps you have lost a spouse, a sibling, a friend, a parent, or perhaps you simply feel alone despite being surrounded by people. Loneliness does not always come from being physically alone. Sometimes it comes from feeling unseen, unheard, disconnected. For a while, I allowed that loneliness to grow. I stayed quiet. I withdrew. I spent more time with my memories than with the people still present in my life. And little by little, I felt my energy fading. Not physical energy, life energy, the desire to engage, the desire to participate, the desire to look forward to tomorrow. Then one morning, something happened that changed my perspective. I was sitting on my porch when a little girl from the neighborhood rode by on her bicycle. She could not have been more than 8 years old. As she passed, she waved enthusiastically and shouted, "Good morning." I smiled and waved back. That interaction lasted only a few seconds. A few seconds. Yet it lifted my mood for hours. That simple moment reminded me of something important. Human beings are designed for connection. We need each other. Not constantly, not every minute, but regularly, meaningfully, genuinely. From that day forward, I made a commitment. Every morning, I would intentionally create some form of connection. Sometimes that means calling an old friend. Sometimes it means sending a message to a family member. Sometimes it means chatting briefly with a neighbor. Sometimes it means attending church activities. Sometimes it simply means smiling and speaking to someone during my morning walk. The specific action changes. The habit remains the same. Connection. I have noticed something remarkable over the years. The days when I connect with others tend to be my strongest days. My mind feels sharper. My mood feels lighter. My energy feels higher. Life feels richer. The days when I isolate myself completely often feel heavier, longer, darker, more difficult. That is not a coincidence. Our hearts need nourishment just as much as our bodies do. And one of the greatest forms of nourishment is meaningful connection. Several years ago, I met another widower at a local community gathering. He was about my age. He looked tired. Not physically tired, emotionally tired. As we talked, he admitted that he rarely spoke to anyone. Days sometimes passed without meaningful conversation. Weeks occasionally passed without visitors. I could see the loneliness in his eyes because I had felt it myself. Over time, we became friends. We started meeting regularly for coffee. Nothing fancy, nothing dramatic, just conversation, stories, laughter, shared memories. Months later, he told me something I will never forget. He said, "I didn't realize how lonely I was until I wasn't lonely anymore." That statement stayed with me. Sometimes we become so accustomed to isolation that we stop noticing its effects. We assume feeling disconnected is normal. We assume sadness is simply part of aging. We assume loneliness is unavoidable. But it does not have to be. Even small moments of connection can make a tremendous difference. A phone call, a greeting, a conversation, a shared laugh, a sincere question, a kind word. These simple acts carry tremendous power. But my morning connection habit goes even deeper than human relationships. Every morning, I also spend time connecting with God. Faith has become increasingly important to me as I have grown older. Not because life became easier, because life became clearer. The older I get, the more I realize how little control we truly have. We cannot control time. We cannot control aging. We cannot control every challenge that comes our way. But we can choose where we place our trust. Each morning, I sit quietly and pray. Sometimes my prayers are long. Sometimes they are short. Sometimes they are words. Sometimes they are simply silence. But those moments ground me. They remind me that I am not walking through life alone. They remind me that even when the house feels empty, my life is not empty. They remind me that there is still purpose in every new day. Many people think prayer changes circumstances. Sometimes it does, but I have found that prayer often changes the person facing those circumstances. It brings peace, strength, perspective, hope. And hope is powerful medicine, especially in old age, especially during difficult seasons, especially when life feels uncertain. As I sit near the window each morning, talking to God and reaching out to others, I often think about something my wife used to say. She would say, "The richest people are not those who have the most. They are the ones who love and are loved." At 87 years old, I believe she was absolutely right. The greatest treasures in life are rarely found in bank accounts. They are found in relationships, in friendships, in family bonds, in shared memories, in faith, in connection. These are the things that truly sustain us. These are the things that keep the heart alive. And perhaps that is one reason I still feel younger than many people expect. Because while my body has aged, I have worked hard to keep my heart engaged with life. Every morning, I remind myself that I still belong to this world. I still have people to care about. I still have conversations to enjoy. I still have kindness to give. I still have love to share. And as long as those things remain true, life remains beautiful. But there is one final morning habit, a habit so simple that many people ignore it completely. Yet it may be the most powerful habit of all. It influences every other choice I make throughout the day. It affects my energy, my mood, my health, my longevity. If you have stayed with me this far, thank you. Perhaps you expected some complicated secret. Perhaps you thought I would reveal a miracle cure, an expensive treatment, or a hidden health formula known only to a few fortunate people. But by now, you have probably noticed a pattern. The habits that have helped me stay healthy at 87 are not complicated. They are simple. They are ordinary. They are available to almost everyone. And that brings me to the fifth and final morning habit that has transformed my life. This habit may sound small. In fact, many people ignore it completely. Yet I believe it has influenced my health more than almost anything else. The fifth morning habit is this. I choose what enters my mind before the world chooses for me. Every morning, before television, before social media, before bad news, before endless headlines, I spend time feeding my mind something positive, something meaningful, something hopeful. This habit began many years ago, and looking back, I believe it may have saved me from becoming a bitter old man. That may sound dramatic, but let me explain. When you reach my age, you have seen many things. You have witnessed joy and heartbreak, success and failure, births and funerals, victories and disappointments. You have watched people you love come into your life and eventually leave it. Life teaches many lessons, some beautiful, some painful. If we are not careful, those experiences can harden us. We can become cynical, negative, angry, discouraged. We can begin expecting the worst. I have met many older people who spend their mornings watching bad news for hours. Every problem in the world, every tragedy, every conflict, every disaster, hour after hour, day after day, year after year. And slowly, without realizing it, they begin carrying all that negativity inside them. Their conversations become negative. Their outlook becomes negative. Their expectations become negative. Eventually, their entire world feels negative. I know because I almost became one of those people. Several years after my wife passed away, I fell into a routine. Wake up, turn on the television, watch the news, listen to experts argue, listen to commentators complain, listen to one alarming story after another. At first, it seemed harmless. I thought I was simply staying informed. But something unexpected happened. My mood began changing. I felt more anxious, more frustrated, more fearful. The world suddenly seemed darker than it really was. One morning, I caught myself expecting bad news before the day had even started. That realization troubled me. I thought about the man I wanted to be. I thought about the example I wanted to set. I thought about the years I still had left. And I made a decision. I would stop beginning my mornings with fear. Instead, I would begin them with hope. That choice changed everything. Now, every morning, I spend time reading something uplifting. Sometimes it is a passage from the Bible. Sometimes it is a devotional. Sometimes it is an inspiring story. Sometimes it is a book that teaches wisdom. Sometimes it is simply a page from something that encourages me to become a better person. The specific material is not as important as the principle behind it. Feed your mind with what helps it grow. Protect it from what makes it weaker. Think about it this way. If you ate nothing but junk food every day, eventually your body would suffer. Everyone understands that, but many people consume mental junk food all day long and wonder why they feel unhappy. Constant negativity, constant outrage, constant fear, constant comparison, constant criticism. Those things affect us more than we realize. The mind is like a garden. Whatever you plant will eventually grow. Plant fear and fear grows. Plant anger and anger grows. Plant gratitude and gratitude grows. Plant hope and hope grows. Every morning, I choose what I want growing inside me. That choice matters, especially when you live alone. Living alone means there is nobody nearby constantly influencing your attitude. You become responsible for your own mental environment. You decide what enters your thoughts. You decide what receives your attention. You decide what shapes your perspective. That responsibility can become a burden, or it can become a gift. For me, it became a gift. One particular morning remains vivid in my memory. I was reading an old notebook where I had written lessons learned throughout my life. One sentence caught my attention. I had written it decades earlier. It said, "Life becomes what you repeatedly focus on." I sat there quietly staring at those words. Life becomes what you repeatedly focus on. The more I thought about it, the more I realized how true it was. People who constantly focus on problems often see only problems. People who constantly focus on opportunities often discover opportunities. People who focus on gratitude often notice blessings. People who focus on loss often remain trapped in loss. Focus shapes experience. That morning, I decided to become more intentional about my focus. Not unrealistic. Not pretending difficulties do not exist. Not ignoring reality. Simply choosing not to allow negativity to dominate my thinking. And over time, something remarkable happened. My days became lighter. My conversations became more enjoyable. My relationships improved. My stress decreased. My happiness increased. Nothing about my circumstances had dramatically changed. What changed was the lens through which I viewed them. That lesson became especially important after losing loved ones. Grief never completely disappears. Even now, there are mornings when I miss my wife deeply. There are moments when a memory appears unexpectedly and brings tears to my eyes. That is normal. That is love. But I have learned that I can honor those memories without allowing sadness to consume my entire day. I can remember what I lost while still appreciating what remains. I can miss the past while still embracing the present. That balance comes from training the mind. And training the mind begins each morning. As I sit by my window with a book, a devotional, or a passage of scripture, sunlight slowly fills the room. Birds begin singing outside. The neighborhood wakes up. A new day begins. And before the world has a chance to fill my mind with noise, I fill it with something meaningful. That habit influences every hour that follows. It affects how I speak, how I think, how I respond to challenges, how I treat other people, how I view myself. Most importantly, it affects how I experience life. At 87 years old, I have learned something profound. A healthy life is not built through one giant decision. It is built through thousands of small decisions, tiny choices repeated day after day, morning after morning, year after year. The choice to wake up with purpose. The choice to gently move the body. The choice to drink water. The choice to connect with others and with God. The choice to feed the mind with hope. These habits may seem simple, but together they have become the foundation of my health. They have helped me remain independent. They have helped me remain active. They have helped me remain grateful. They have helped me remain alive, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually as well. And perhaps that is the greatest lesson I can share. Growing older does not mean stopping. It does not mean giving up. It does not mean surrendering your joy. It simply means becoming more intentional about how you live. Every morning offers a choice, a fresh beginning, a new opportunity, a chance to invest in your future self. And even at 87 years old, I still believe the best way to honor life is to greet each new day with purpose, movement, gratitude, connection, and hope. Because age may add years to our lives, but habits determine how much life we add to those years. As we come to the end of this journey together, I want to sit with you for just a little longer. Imagine that we are sitting together on a quiet porch as the sun begins to rise. The air is cool. The world is still peaceful. The birds are beginning their morning songs, and for a few moments, life feels slower than usual. At 87 years old, I have learned many things. Some lessons came through joy. Some came through heartbreak. Some came through success, and some came through the kind of pain that changes a person forever. I have buried people I loved. I have said goodbye more times than I ever wanted to. I have watched entire chapters of my life come to an end. The little boy I once was feels like a stranger now. The young husband who dreamed about the future seems like someone from another lifetime. The busy father raising children, working long hours, and worrying about bills exists now only in memories. Time moves quickly, much more quickly than we realize. If there is one thing I wish every younger person understood, it is this: the days feel long, but the years feel short. One moment you are planning your future. The next moment you are looking back on it. That is why the habits we talked about today matter so much, because life is not built in the big moments most people remember. Life is built in the small moments most people overlook. The ordinary mornings, the simple routines, the tiny choices, the quiet decisions nobody else sees. Those moments shape who we become. When people ask me how I stay healthy at 87, they are usually expecting some secret. But there is no secret. There are only choices. Daily choices, repeated choices, faithful choices. Small choices made over many years. The choice to wake up with purpose instead of drifting through the day. The choice to move my body instead of surrendering to stiffness. The choice to drink water and care for myself. The choice to stay connected to people and to God. The choice to fill my mind with hope rather than fear. None of these habits are extraordinary by themselves, but together they have created an extraordinary life. Not a perfect life, not an easy life, not a life without loss, but a meaningful life. And meaning is one of the greatest forms of wealth a person can possess. I think about my wife often. Some mornings, I can almost hear her voice. Some mornings, I still reach for memories as if they happened yesterday. Love leaves fingerprints on the heart. Real love never completely disappears. The people we lose may leave this world, but the impact they have on us remains. For a long time after she passed away, I believed the best years of my life were behind me. Maybe some of you feel that way right now. Maybe you think your happiest days are over. Maybe you think your purpose is gone. Maybe you think there is nothing left to look forward to. If that is you, I want you to hear me carefully. As long as you are breathing, your story is not finished. As long as your heart is beating, your life still matters. As long as you wake up in the morning, there is still purpose waiting for you. It may not be the purpose you expected. It may not look like it did years ago, but it is there. Sometimes purpose is found in helping a neighbor. Sometimes it is found in encouraging a grandchild. Sometimes it is found in sharing wisdom. Sometimes it is found in simply being kind to a stranger. Never underestimate the impact of your presence. The world needs more wisdom. The world needs more compassion. The world needs more people who have learned life's lessons and are willing to share them. Your age is not your weakness. Your age is your testimony. Every wrinkle tells a story. Every scar teaches a lesson. Every gray hair represents a battle survived. You have made it through things that once seemed impossible. Do not forget that. There were moments in your life when you thought you would not recover. Yet here you are. There were seasons when you thought the pain would never end. Yet here you are. There were losses that nearly broke your heart. Yet here you are. Stronger than you realize. Wiser than you know. More valuable than you sometimes believe. One of the greatest mistakes people make is measuring life only by productivity. They ask, "What can I do?" But a better question is often, "Who can I be?" Can you be encouraging? Can you be patient? Can you be loving? Can you be grateful? Can you be present? Those qualities become more important with every passing year. At this stage of life, I no longer worry about impressing people. I no longer chase things that do not matter. I no longer spend energy trying to prove myself. Instead, I focus on what lasts: faith, love, character, kindness, relationships. These are the treasures that remain valuable no matter how old we become. And perhaps that is why I still feel young in many ways. My body has aged. There is no denying that. I move slower. I tire more easily. I need more rest. But my curiosity remains. My gratitude remains. My faith remains. My hope remains. Those things keep a person alive inside. I have met people in their 40s who seem old because they have stopped hoping. And I have met people in their 90s who seem young because they still wake up excited about life. Age is not only measured by years, it is measured by attitude, by perspective, by purpose. Every morning when I wake up, I remind myself of something simple. This day is a gift, not a guarantee. A gift I did not earn, a gift I should not waste, a gift I should appreciate. When you begin seeing life that way, everything changes. Even ordinary moments become extraordinary. A cup of coffee becomes a blessing. A phone call becomes a blessing. A walk outside becomes a blessing. A conversation becomes a blessing. A sunrise becomes a blessing. The older I get, the more I realize that happiness is often hidden inside ordinary moments, not extraordinary moments, ordinary ones. The problem is that most people are moving too fast to notice. So before we say goodbye, I want to leave you with a challenge. Tomorrow morning, when you wake up, do not rush. Pause for a moment. Take a deep breath. Place your hand over your heart. Remind yourself that you are still here. Then ask yourself one simple question. What kind of day do I want to create? Not what kind of day will happen to you. What kind of day will you create? Will you choose gratitude? Will you choose movement? Will you choose connection? Will you choose hope? Will you choose purpose? Those choices may seem small, but small choices create big lives. And if an 87-year-old man living alone can still wake up excited for another sunrise, then perhaps there is more possibility in your future than you realize. Thank you for spending this time with me. Thank you for listening. And if this message touched your heart, remember this: you are not too old. You are not too late. You are not finished. There is still life to live. There is still joy to find. There is still love to share. There is still purpose to discover. And tomorrow morning, when the sun rises again, you will be given another beautiful opportunity to begin. So take care of yourself. Treasure your days. Protect your peace. Stay grateful. Stay hopeful. And never forget that some of the strongest, healthiest, and happiest people in the world are not those who have the easiest lives. They are the ones who choose every single morning to keep living with purpose. And that choice can change everything.